Hi and welcome to Mist and Stone. Today we're going to talk about something a little bit different to the normal history mythology thing, and that's movies, or rather one movie in particular. In recent years, Ireland is a bit of a mecca for the Hollywood movie industry. Well, going right back to, say, Ryan's Daughter, The Blue Max. In more recent years, obviously Game of Thrones being shot a lot in Ireland, and even parts of Star Wars being shot on Skellig Michael. Place well worth a visit if you're in Ireland and in that particular region. But the movie we're going to talk about is its 70th anniversary was yesterday, the 4th of September. And is one of the earliest Hollywood movies set in Ireland, and that's The Quiet Man. What can we say about The Quiet Man? To modernise, it could probably seem quite sexist, even misogynist. We do have to look at it though in the context of its time. It was made 70 years ago and set 100 years ago. The portrayal of the characters could, to modernise, seem a bit stage Irish, but I have to say there's been some characters in movies like Far and Away and that were a lot worse a lot later when we should have known better. Petula Clark's accent in Finian's Rainbow was probably one of the worst in the history of Irish accents, and that was quite a bit later. The majority of the actors in The Quiet Man were in fact Irish, 3 of them being from Dublin. Maureen O'Hara, who was born in Ranelagh and studied acting in Rathmines and the Abbey before she went for a screen test, which didn't actually go very well until Charles Lawton saw her, liked her and wanted her in his adaptation of the Daphne du Maurier novel Jamaica Inn. And the rest is history. She gradually became what we would call today an A-list star in America. The whole movie was a departure for John Ford. John Ford, this is 1952, so it's 7 years after the Second World War. John Ford had been one of the 5 directors who were moved to propaganda duties during the war, and he had filmed the Japanese attack on Midway Island and got wounded in the process. Up to this point, he'd mostly, him and John Wayne had mostly made westerns. So this was a departure for him and a departure for the studio as well. It wasn't his first rodeo with Ireland as a subject matter, although his previous movie, and which had starred actually one of the stars from this, Victor McLegland, his previous movie The Informer, wasn't shot in Ireland. It was actually shot on an RKO backlot in Los Angeles. The Informer was an interesting movie. It was, as the name suggests, about an informer. Victor McLegland is an informer, and the story behind that movie actually quite worth watching, if only for its historical. It's historical as in the movie history rather than Irish history. The thing was moved originally from the Civil War, which was still quite raw in the 1930s, so they moved it back to the War of Independence. Um, so that was kind of John Ford's first rodeo with Ireland, and it worked quite well for him, because I think he won Best Director for it, and Victor McLaglen Best Actor. And it was up against some heavy hitting. I think it was Mutiny on the Bounty, if my memory serves me right. It was up against. Mutiny on the Bounty got more nominations, but The Informer carried off more, more of the big Oscars. But I digress a bit there. The stars of The Quiet Man are quite interesting in themselves. You had, as I've said, Maureen O'Hara, who was from Dublin. The other two stars that were from Dublin were Barry Fitzgerald. He quite frequently played character actors, character parts, usually Irish character parts, and was quite a well-known Hollywood actor, albeit, like I say, a character actor rather than a main actor in movies. And his brother also starred in the movie. Barry Fitzgerald played Micheline O'Flynn, who was the matchmaker in the movie. His brother also was in the movie as the Protestant vicar, who knew who John Wayne's character was, who recognised John Wayne's character when the rest of them didn't. But in real life, his brother had a very interesting history. His brother was Arthur Shields. Barry Fitzgerald's real name was Shields. Arthur Shields was an interesting character. He was a Protestant, and he was in the Abbey at the time of the 1916 Rising, and he was one of the actors in the Abbey who took part in the Rising and was later interned in Fromgoch prison in Wales. Like his brother, he mostly played character parts and didn't even reach the same level as Barry did. But to my mind, because of his involvement in the 1916 Rising, etc., kind of a more interesting backstory. They were both sons of Adolphus Shields. Adolphus Shields was a labour organiser from 1901 through. So they didn't get their kind of rebellious streak from nowhere. Another actor in the movie who I touched on already was Victor McLaglen. Victor McLaglen was a boxer originally, big guy, and anyone that's ever seen the movie knows that one of the big scenes was the prolonged fight between John Wayne and Victor McLaglen. Victor McLaglen, who we touched on earlier, who had appeared in The Informer, plays John Wayne's nemesis, for the want of a better word, in the movie. He was a boxer, and anyone who's seen the movie, one of the most memorable scenes in it was the prolonged fight between John Wayne and himself. A very theatrical, prolonged, sometimes very funny fist fight. The fight starts with him basically saying Marcus of Queensberry rules before kicking John Wayne in the face, which Okay, my schoolboy humour finds hilarious. As I say, he was a boxer turned actor. And he played an Irishman once before in The Informer. The Informer, again, like I say, is worth watching for its place in movie history rather than its place in Irish history, but it's still worth a watch. It appears on the Irish Film Institute from time to time, and it's worth a watch. The last of the main actors that we'll touch on was the parish priest. The whole movie is narrated by the parish priest and seen through his eyes. He's played by an actor called Ward Bond, who most people of every generation will most recognise as Bert the cop in It's a Wonderful Life. The Quiet Man is a typical rom-com, or what we would have disparagingly called a chick flick in the 70s and 80s. It's typical of that genre of boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back, etc., etc. Sean Trooper Thorne, played by John Wayne, is an Irish emigrant who returns home after he is, as a professional boxer, killed somebody in the boxing ring. He falls for the fiery redhead Maureen O'Hara, Mary Kate Danaher. He comes back to his family home, White and Morn, and buys it, much to the annoyance of Mary Kate Danaher's brother, Squire Danaher, played by Victor McLeglin. So obviously Victor McLeglin, having been gazumped on White and Morn, is not too happy to give permission for his sister to marry Sean Thornton. Again, which to modern eyes would seem very sexist. Why should she care what her brother thinks? But 100 years ago it was important. The villagers managed to convince him that his own love interest, the widow Tillan, will never marry him so long as there's another woman in the house. So his best bet is to get his sister married off. So he agrees to the wedding. But once they're married, he discovers that the villagers had tricked him and the widow Tillan is not showing any particular interest in him. So his only recourse for revenge is to withhold her dowry. John Wayne, being American and not used to the ways of 1920s rural Ireland, says, I don't care, I don't need the money, basically, as most modern guys would. But it's not the point. She wants her dowry, she wants her things around her, she wants her dowry. So the whole movie builds up to the ultimate confrontation between Danaher and Sean Thornton. Sean Thornton is reluctant to fight Danaher, obviously, because the last person he fought ended up dead. But the fight ultimately happens, and they end up as most things do in Ireland, in the pub. It's very light fare. It is very light fare. The scenery is stunning, and it's quaint old Irish with an O. Is it stage Irish? Is it sexist? Is it misogynistic? All those things could possibly be levelled against it, but to kind of dismiss The Quiet Man as sexist is a bit like dismissing Roots as racist. It's kind of half what it's about her brother having an undue influence over what she's able to do as a grown woman. So in the sense that it shows us a bit of social history which did exist, I would argue there's a relevance to it. Whether modern audiences, especially younger modern audiences, would find it interesting, funny in the same way, or just strange and outdated, would be interesting to see. I would quite like, as an experiment, to show it to a bunch of 20-somethings and get their feelings on it. It would be an interesting thing as a social experiment to do. Is it an important film in Irish cinema history? I suppose it is. It's one of the early definitive portrayals of Ireland and Hollywood, and one of the earliest, in at the start of the love affair that Hollywood has had with Ireland over the years. When you think, like I say, as I said already, when you think since then, we've had our movies that are based in Ireland, like Bloom and The Commitments and My Left Foot and In the Name of the Father and The Wind That Shakes the Barley and Michael Collins and so on. And you've had the ones that are filmed in Ireland but aren't like based in Ireland, like Educating Rita, Excalibur, Saving Private Ryan, The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, The Tailor of Panama. You've had Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince filmed here. And like I say, more recently series like Game of Thrones and that filmed here. So Ireland use it a lot for filming now, but The Quiet Man would have been one of the earlier ones. So for that reason, it's a movie worth looking at, and would take its place in the list of Irish movies, memorable Irish movies. It like Ryan's Daughter, which was filmed there on the west coast of Kerry a few years after that. It certainly, I would say, portrayed the Irish countryside and the Irish scenery in such a way that would have kick-started the American tourists' love of coming here, which has been shot in the arm recently with Skellig Michael. So whether we like these movies or we don't like these movies, the same as the Lord of the Rings series has done for New Zealand, you can't deny that they have a tourist benefit from how they were shot, where they were shot, and so on. The 70th anniversary is worth remembering. There's an interesting thing if you do watch the John Ford, in the very last scene of the movie, John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara are standing on top of a hill, breaking the third wall and waving to people, assumingly the audience in the cinema. John Ford had told Maureen O'Hara to whisper something in John Wayne's ear to get a reaction from him, because he was not the most expressive of actors, as anyone knows. So she was told to whisper something in his ear to elicit a reaction from him. And you see her lean over, whisper something in his ear, and you see the look of kind of shock and surprise on his face, and the movie cuts out. Now, what she whispered, nobody knows, and at this stage no one will ever know, because I seen her in an interview later in her life, in which I think it was Gay Born on Irish television. Irish people know who he is. Any people from across the pond, less so. But she steadfastly refused to divulge what she had whispered in his ear. There were often rumours that Maureen O'Hara and John Wayne had an affair, none of which were ever substantiated, and I wouldn't like to speculate one way or the other. But something in me likes to think that whatever she whispered was on the naughtier scale of naughty, to elicit that response. And it's kind of nice that it's between the two of them and nobody will ever know what she whispered. One of those little mysteries, and as they've both sadly passed now, no one ever will know. So that's one little bit of an enigma, a little bit of a mystery at the end of the thing, which becomes, if you think about it, more interesting than the actual movie was. But there you are. This is a bit of a departure, although it's about Ireland, based in Ireland and so on, so it's not entirely outside my remit. It's a bit of a departure from the kind of dustier history things. Let me know in the comments what you think, and what you thought of the movie if you watched it. As I say, I can completely understand the reaction to it being sexist, maybe even misogynist, and stage Irish and outdated, and I can understand that reaction. I still think it was worth kind of doing a video remembering it on its 70th anniversary. I would say though, as with most of these movies, although there's some a bit more so, but as with a lot of these movies, it may have been sexist, but John Wayne's character, Sean Thornton, did not get it all his own way. Mary Kate Danaher was well able for him and her brother and all the men that worked for him. So in that sense, she was a formidable woman, able to hold her own. So that much I enjoy. So if you like this content, you like this type of thing, please give us a like. Please subscribe. The more subscribers we have, the more we know we're doing what you want us to do. And hit the notification button. I hope to be bringing out videos a bit more often. So hit the notification button so you can find out when we're bringing out something new. Each thing might be your thing, or some of it might not. But if you hit the notification button, you'll get to know when I'm bringing them out. So I have a couple of little short ones planned, and I have a much longer video that I'm working on planned. So hope to see you again soon, and let me know what your thoughts on The Quiet Man is. What characters you like, what characters you didn't like. Did you hate the whole movie? Did you love the whole movie? and what, if anything, you think its relevance is or was. So, slán, and see you again soon. Bye.